notice how you feel. Like if you're ending up with sugar cravings, we might want to up our protein. If you find that you are ravenous at night, we're probably under eating in the first half of the day. The things that we often feel like are a moral failing are really just the body communicating with us.
Hi, this is Monica Packer, and you're listening to About Progress, where we are about progress made practical. Early on in our marriage was when blogs birthed into the world. I don't know how else to say that, but it was a big time for blogs, and I was an avid blog reader. It was my go-to way of spending my free time, connecting with other women, learning from their stories, relating to them, and it broadened so much of my worldview. One of the most popular trends during this time were fitness blogs, where women would share about the ways that they were exercising and eating. And as someone who was in the trenches of recovering from eating disorders, that could have potentially been really bad for me. Instead, reading these detailed blogs of what women were doing to exercise and even their food diaries on what they ate actually helped heal my relationship with food. And that's because it finally taught me what it looks like to be eating enough. You see, my entire life up until that point, eating well meant eating next to nothing. We all lived that way in the 80s and 90s and early aughts, where it was about eat this, not that, and heavily on the not that. With so much restriction in mind, it became really difficult to gauge what it looked like to be eating enough and properly so. These blogs helped educate me on how to eat enough and in ways that were reflective of actual nutritional science, not fads. I'm glad that over the last 5 or 10 years, especially, we have shifted to urge women to get stronger, to eat enough. And with that has come the encouragement to eat more of certain types of nutrition in food, like protein and fiber. And this is where I have to ask the question, are these pushes fads or are they facts? To answer this, I asked Jenn Trepeck to come on the show to break it all down for us. She shares the science behind why these nutrients are so important, especially for women, how to incorporate them better into our lives, and in ways where doing so is not just following another fad diet. Some quick heads up for you. While weight loss was not a topic on the table, I know conversations around food can be triggering for some people, so proceed with care if that's the case for you. I also don't always agree with everything a guest says, and you will hear some moments where I had more curiosity and lended my own perspective on a few things. And finally, know that this information isn't meant to be prescriptive, nor to replace the advice of medical professionals that may be over your care. So take what's helpful and leave the rest behind. At the heart of it all, though, this conversation was really illuminating and helpful as I continue to navigate being a person who wants to be alive, and healthfully so, without being consumed and obsessed with the food on my plate. And I really hope that by the end of the episode, you can say that we delivered on that. Jenn Trepeck has been described as a force of nature in the wellness space and an award-winning podcaster. She is an optimal health coach, a podcaster, and a business consultant. In her own pursuit of health, Jenn learned the nutritional education that we were supposed to know, but no one ever taught us. Doing so changed Jenn's life and allowed her to finally kick her food issues. Ever since, she's been on a mission to pay it forward and help people help themselves. After over a decade of working with clients, Jenn started Salad with a Side of Fries podcast, which is based on science, yet lighthearted. Jenn talks about living while still making ourselves and our health a priority. That interview is coming up after a quick break for our sponsors. My love of having cleaner indoor air must be something you all know about me by now, because one of my most common questions that comes in on my direct messages is, what's that air purifier again? Well, it's Air Doctor, the award-winning air purifier that eliminates 99.99% of dangerous contaminants like allergens, viruses, smoke, gases, mold spores, and more. Americans spend an average of 90% of their time indoors, but did you know that indoor air can be up to 100 times more polluted than outdoor air? We know it in the Packer household because one of our kids happens to have pretty bad indoor allergies, and our new doctor was relieved to hear that we already have an air purifier in our home. Unlike other purifiers, Air Doctor captures invisible particles 100 times smaller than standard HEPA filters, making the Packer household very happy customers. I recently burned something in my oven, and I was so happy to see that my Air Doctor kicked right into high gear automatically all on its own because it could sense that something was a little bit off in our main area. You can experience the joy of Air Doctor and breathe cleaner. Just head to airdoctorpro.com and use promo code Monica to get up to $300 off today. Air Doctor comes with a 30-day money-back guarantee plus a 3-year warranty and $84 value free. Get this exclusive podcast-only offer now at airdoctorpro.com. That's AIRDOCTORPRO.com using promo code Monica. One of the ways I'm filling my cup is returning more to my teaching roots and offering affordable online workshops to this community on very niche topics that I know you both want and need. I recently did the How to Dream Again workshop, helping women gain clarity on what more they want in their lives. And coming up, I'll be teaching the Best Summer Ever workshop, practically guiding women to craft a summer for the scrapbooks. More online workshops are coming, but you can get information on and access to these workshops and the replays by going to aboutprogress.com/workshops. For just $17, you can invest some time and thought into making progress in your life and in ways per usual to this community that are both deep and practical. Again, check out what's available by going to aboutprogress.com/workshops, and workshops is plural. Jenn Trepeck, welcome to About Progress.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here.
I'm really eager to dig into this conversation because there are a lot of, quote unquote food fads that go around the internet that can be really easy to get swept up into. But the two in particular we're going to talk about today, I think aren't just fads. And I think it's, this is more anecdotal for me. My own experience and being better about both has helped me feel better. And we're going to be talking about protein and fiber, baby. So
It's my favorites.
good. I'm glad to hear it. Well,
Yes.
let's kind of start with the elephant in the room. Like, do we really need as much of both as what people are saying? And is this a fad?
So, no, it's not a fad. I think the way people are talking about it makes it feel like a fad.
Yeah.
And because it's not what we learned, makes it feel like a fad, right? Like, I don't know about you, but I grew up on the food pyramid,
Yep.
right?
Mhm.
And then it evolved into the plate, but even the plate didn't get to nutrition
Basically
or
the
human
same as the
biology.
pyramid.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the pyramid was based on economics and getting us to eat what we grow in this country.
Hmm.
Well, we grow corn and wheat. And so the food pyramid is telling us to eat oodles and oodles of grains, which isn't, like we said, based on nutrition or biology. And the interesting piece, right, about all of it is that now the conversation on grains has been like, well, whole grains, right? That's what we mean, not refined grains. But the nutrients that the body needs, we hear it as macros, right? Macros are macronutrients, the nutrients that the body needs in large quantities, right? As opposed to micronutrients, the nutrients the body needs in smaller quantities, right? So your macros are protein, carbs, and fat. Well, so yes, right? We need protein, carbs, and fat. So we'll talk about the protein one in a second, but the carb piece, the difference between the carbs that support the body, the quality carbs, and the carbs that end up spiking our blood sugar that don't provide the nutrition is fiber. So we can talk about, the sources and the quality of those things, but when it comes to grains, which is what most people think of when they hear the word carbs, right? When it comes to grains, the way I describe it and talk about it is that they're actually just inefficient at getting us that protein and fiber. And even those micronutrients. So what tends to happen is that, and by inefficient, I mean you have to eat a large quantity to get any real significant contribution to your protein and fiber intake.
Got it.
Right? And then on the micronutrient front, whole grains, like if you actually had whole wheat or whole rye or whole barley, there are some nutrients in there, right? There are some vitamins and minerals in there. But by the time those grains are processed into bread or crackers, those nutrients are gone, right? They are essentially removed or depleted so much in the process of making the food that our food manufacturers now add them back in.
Got it.
Right? It's why we see fortified or enriched included in the ingredient. Or you might see it on a cereal box, right? Like fortified cereals, right? Enriched wheat flour. That's what that means. It's that they're trying to add these vitamins and minerals back in.
Got it.
So it's not no carb or low carb. It's quality carb. And the quality carb is a function of fiber.
Okay.
The best source of fiber are your vegetables and fruit. So for everybody, again, low carb, no carb, that whole fad thing, right? For whatever health objective, like, or just scrolling the internet and seeing like the carnivore guy and whatever, we need carbohydrates. Carbohydrates are the body's preferred fuel. Remember, fruits and vegetables are your carbohydrates. So if someone is saying remove those things, that takes us back to our old days of on, off, good, bad, black, white, labeling foods. And I say our because I, like we
grew
have
up
all
in this
been there.
modern day. Yes.
Yeah.
Eat this, not that.
Right. And for so many of us with our, type A and perfectionism, and we're going to do something, we're going to do it well, right? Like we know how to do that. And so now part of my own growth and what I see with my clients all the time is that we start to identify that in the things that we're seeing on social media. So it's part of why I love this topic, that we're talking about these two things in the context of like, is it fad or fact, right? Because it's fact that has now become sort of a fad because of how everybody's talking about it.
Yeah, and they're probably talking about it because of the benefits, like I said, I experienced, to more energy. And I guess energy really is it to me. I feel like everything comes back to just feeling more energy in your life, but I know there's a lot more other benefits. And maybe we can speak to those. But
yeah,
let's go back to protein first, though. Like,
okay, great.
What about protein makes it something that it's not a fad? It's not a fad. It's a fact that we need that we need it.
Okay. Protein is made up of amino acids. Amino acids, right, they're the building blocks of protein. They are also building blocks inside the body. My favorite thing about proteins and those amino acids is that they are the building blocks of neurotransmitters. When we think neurotransmitters, we want to think mood, right? If you are feeling cranky, short-tempered, right? Craving sugar. If we are feeling like no matter what we do, where everything is just frustrating, right? We want to think about our protein and those amino acids. Amino acids are also, protein is also the building blocks of tissue. So a lot of times we think about muscle, right? Like building muscle, especially as we get older. Muscle is critical for health. Muscle is critical for metabolism. Muscle is critical for longevity, right? And I always say muscle's an important and expensive tissue because we have to work for it. So part of working for it is that resistance training that builds muscle, but also eating to support it. So your protein supports that muscle, the repair of that tissue. Also think about it for healing, right? Like anytime we have an injury or a procedure, we need that protein to support healing and the rebuilding of that tissue. So it's beyond what we typically think of. And yes, the piece that connects to energy, by the way, not just the mood, but the energy, is about blood sugar stabilization. Okay? So whether we are energized or exhausted, whether we are hangry or taking a deep breath because, we're like, whoa, we overdid it, right? It's all a function of blood sugar. So our objective is to eat to keep our blood sugar stable. That connects to stable energy. That connects to being tired at an appropriate time at the end of the day. That connects to having willpower even. In the research, low blood sugar creates low willpower, right? And we think of that anytime we have to use self-control. So if it's after school, right, and kids are, going at it with, with each other, how long is our fuse?
Yeah.
Right? If our blood sugar is stable, our fuse is longer, right? We get to show up and be the people we want to be when we have stable blood sugar. It also helps us sleep well. It fuels the activity, right? Frankly, quality of life comes down to being able to feel empowered. And that happens when we're not living on a roller coaster of blood sugar. When we're not constantly going from like, I can't keep my eyes open to I am ravenous, I need something to eat. I'm going to bite everybody's head off kind of a thing,
Yeah, I don't know. I'd never known that.
Yeah.
Not me.
I don't know who would be like that.
Not me here. So listen, this is really informative. I'm thinking back to when you were talking about fiber and how it makes carbs efficient. So they kind of work together, especially if it's sourced in fruits and veggies. I'm curious how fiber and protein connect together. I mean, because everything you just described about blood sugar, I'm imagining they contribute together on that. But
yes,
I'm wondering, I guess what I'm really getting at is I also want to know why people are now pairing them both. Is it just because the fat of protein made it so people were forgetting to eat like their fruits and veggies, or do they actually work together?
First of all, they were protein, fiber, quality fat all need to be there all the time. And eating foods in combination help them last longer. So quality food, right? Lower glycemic quality food that has fiber, protein, and quality fat take longer for your body to break them down. And therefore, it's part of what helps keep the blood sugar stable.
Okay.
Right? When blood sugar spikes, it's because whatever we ate is quickly broken down and assimilated into the bloodstream as sugar, right? So fiber, protein, and quality fat all slow down that process. We have always known, those of us who have been having these conversations have always known that you want to eat these foods in combination, right? That it is that we don't ever want one nutrient at the expense of another, or nutrients in isolation, right? Because nothing in nature exists in isolation. So I've been doing this since 2007. I learned from people who were kind of the pioneers in functional nutrition, and this has always been that conversation. I think the idea of putting them together is what feels like a fad, because for a long time, we heard everybody was protein deficient. Right?
Yeah.
And there was just such an emphasis on protein. And I feel like I've been in the corner like protein and fiber, right?
Yeah.
And then now people are starting to talk about fiber. And there's a few pieces to that. I think one is I did an episode called America's Fiber Problem because the average American eats less than half of the minimum recommended amount of fiber a day. And that tracks back to eating more and more processed foods, right? That are replete, or deplete of nutrients. We want to replenish the nutrients. And so it becomes this sort of push and pull in the conversations. And so as more and more people are talking about blood sugar, I think that's where this is becoming this idea of like these two things. And so in an ideal scenario, and by ideal, I mean minimum, We want to get to about 25 grams of fiber per day or more. Like if you
Okay.
look at ancient civilizations, they had much more than that. Some even had 40, 45 grams of fiber a day. But it just happened because of the foods that they were eating.
Mm-hmm.
There was a diet book years ago that emphasized fiber and then sold a bunch of products that were super high fiber, and people ended up with a lot of gastro issues.
Hmm.
And so just like anything we hear about, there is nuance to it. And that's my pet peeve, with everything in this quote unquote wellness space, because it's the type of fiber, it's the variety, it's over the course of a day, and it's gradually working your way up. So the average American gets like 8 to 10 grams of fiber a day, and we're looking for minimum 25. You add some of these things and your body isn't used to it, right? You're going to have GI upset.
Okay.
If what we end up doing is sort of going all in, right? And we go for that fiber powder. Like one of the things I hear a lot from people is like, no, it's okay. I take Metamucil. And it's like, not my favorite. The source of our fiber makes a really big difference, because a lot of times if we just sort of go hog wild, that fiber can pull out the good things that are in our gut too. So we want to work our way up. We want to focus on the quality of the fiber, the variety of fiber, right? And choose quality choices. And we can talk about that looks like both for protein and fiber too. But so like everything, as much as we would like it to be an eat this, not that, do this, not that, it's just not how the body works so much.
Yeah.
You know?
And I think it messes with our brains. I mean, I think we all
1,000%.
know if you were born in the 80s, 90s, 70s, even, then like how much a bowl of crackers are, or broccoli, like a tablespoon of butter. We all know these things because of so much of what we learned before about what to eat was really more about restriction instead of what to have. And I think one of the interesting side benefits to people talking about this more, and especially you, with you saying it's not just this, it's not just this, and it's not just this, it's all three together. And we're going to talk about quality sources in a minute.
Okay.
And all those benefits that you went through, I think a large part of them is because we're eating more. And women have been so restricted for so long, or eating just like air. That's all on the diet aisle.
Right.
That we're actually getting the benefits of eating. For starters, right? Like, hey, eating, who knew? It helps with all these things.
And we're looking too at, more and more there's conversation about women's health and, perimenopause and menopause, which before was never talked about.
Yeah.
And you think about hormones. By the way, your hormones all need protein, amino acids, vitamins and minerals, right? Like quality fat. As we're starting to understand our own bodies and have these conversations sort of out of the shadows, it creates these other conversations too. I think you're totally right.
So you talked about fiber being 25 grams. And before we go into some quality choices, and I like that you keep using the word quality, including with fat, that we need fat too. Can you tell us what is actually a good marker then for protein? Because the reason why I had to start this is because I realized I almost never get protein because I don't love to eat meat, although I've been getting more inclined to that as I've been eating more of it. So, but it's just kind of overwhelming when you look at the numbers and the formula they give you. I'm like, how much do we actually need of protein?
Yeah. And it's different person to person, right?
Yeah.
I say about everything, guidelines, not gospel. Right? So I'm going to give you some guidelines. Follow the guidelines for a little bit and see how you feel. and then play with it.
That's
Be
great
like,
advice.
wait, I actually feel better when I do this. Awesome, right? Guidelines, not gospel. So a serving of protein for a biologically female body at a meal is your whole hand.
Oh, okay.
So remember we were taught like, 80s and 90s, the palm of your hand, right? That is a snack.
Yeah.
Okay, that is a snack.
Wow.
So a whole hand, 4 to
Okay.
6 ounces for a female, 6 to 8 ounces for a male body.
Hmm.
A snack is 2 to 3 ounces. Now, I just talked about ounces.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
You go read a protein shake label, and
Mhm.
it's going to give you grams. And you're like, what am I supposed to do? Right?
Yeah,
All right.
yeah.
Here's the easy conversion. 7 grams is like 1 ounce of a cooked meat or like an animal protein.
Okay.
Okay. 1 egg is 1 ounce. So I say this to all my clients because my favorite thing is when they say, I don't know why, but like mid-morning, I'm starving. And I'm like, cool, what'd you have for breakfast? And they're like, I had an egg and a piece of toast. Okay, my friend, I say this with love, but that wasn't even a snack size amount of protein,
Yeah.
right? A snack size would be 2 eggs. A meal, we're talking 4 eggs. Now, that's also not to say all of the protein in your meal doesn't have to come from one thing,
Sure.
right?
Yeah.
So you might do 3 eggs and add nutritional yeast, which sort of has like a nutty, cheesy flavor that gives you
Yeah.
another ounce of protein and it's about 1 ounce, 7 grams and 2 tablespoons, right? Add that onto your eggs or onto your salad. And we just sort of threw in another ounce of protein, but a different flavor, right? And something interesting there. So it doesn't all have to come from one source, but it allows us to think then about how we're building our meal. So Greek yogurt is another one. People will say, oh, I had yogurt and berries. Big fan of berries, right? A cup of
There's your fiber,
raspberries is
right?
like 9 grams of fiber, right? And raspberries have a little more than other berries, but whatever,
Sure.
right? Don't drive yourself nuts. A handful. A cup is a handful. Like,
Got
I'm
it.
not living my life with measuring cups in my handbag. I hope you're
Yeah.
not either. Your
Yeah.
hands are great, right? It's also what I teach, like, when I'm working with kids and families. It's what we teach the kids, right? We're using our
So
hands.
smart. Yeah.
So your whole hand is the protein, right? A serving of vegetables is a handful.
Okay.
If it's greens, we're going to do 2 handfuls because, like, think about spinach, right?
Sure.
Like, 2 handfuls. A fruit, a serving size of fruit is like a normal size piece of fruit. Like, not the apple that's the size of your head and not the apple that's the size of a grape, right?
Yeah.
Like a small handful piece of fruit, right? Okay, that's appropriate for the type of fruit. And so over the course of the day, I love to have people work their way up to, we're going to have protein every time we eat, right? Snack size or meal size is just a function of how long it's going to last us till we need to fuel again, right? Over the course of the day, we want to work our way up to 8 to 12 servings of vegetables. That's going to get you your 25 grams of fiber. You might have 1 to 2 fruits in there too, and 8 to 12 and then 1 to 2. So if you're getting that, you will get that 25 grams of fiber. No need to worry, right? If we look at the average person getting 8 to 10 grams of fiber, they're maybe having a handful of lettuce at a meal and going, woohoo, and I love it. I'm not poo-pooing that. I'm also just saying we want to up the ante if what we're looking for is health and longevity.
I made 10 big personal goals for 2025, and one of them was to follow through with our plan to build up financial security. Last year, it was about simply getting information on how to do so, with major questions like, how much do we actually need to save for retirement? And is where we are at with college savings going to be enough for our kids? And is our budget on track to meet our larger goals? But honestly, I just needed to know, are we okay? Brad and I met with Elizabeth, our financial planner from Fearless Finance, to answer these big questions and more. We left our sessions feeling not only more secure, but with a plan in place, with literal tasks we could check off to move forward towards increased financial security. Each month this year, Brad and I have been getting together to check off the tasks that Elizabeth laid out for us. Next up, we are doing estate planning with Fearless Finance too. If you think financial planning is only for the rich, is a bogus industry, or you just don't know who to trust or to not judge you, look no further than Fearless Finance. Their mission is to make advice affordable and accessible. You meet with your planner virtually and they charge by the hour. You only pay for the time you use down to the quarter hour. Whether you're looking to pay off student loans, buy a house, or just want to make sure your finances are okay, they can answer your questions. No question is too small, no problem is too big. Visit fearlessfinance.com today. You can chat with the planner for free to make sure it's a good fit, and you'll get $50 off your first planning meeting when you use the code PROGRESS. Again, go to fearlessfinance.com and use the code PROGRESS. This podcast is sponsored by Go Pure Beauty. You may already know this about me, but I love skincare. I have been so hyper diligent about taking care of my face since my early 20s, thanks to a great dermatologist I happened to visit at the time. But guess what I forgot about for most of those years? My neck. Did you forget too? The skin on your neck is thinner, more delicate, and less oily than facial skin, so it requires special care. That's why Go Pure Beauty developed their revolutionary Tighten and Lift Neck Cream. Powered by clinically proven active ingredients, this advanced formula is designed to visibly firm, smooth, and rejuvenate the delicate skin on your neck and chest in as little as 4 to 8 weeks. I've been using the Tighten and Lift Neck Cream, and I've been loving it. The silky texture is so nice. My very sensitive skin has responded to it very well. And that's thanks to it being paraben and sulfate-free and made without harsh chemicals. For a limited time, our listeners get 25% off Go Pure with code PROGRESS at checkout. And Go Pure isn't just about your neck. They have a full line of science-backed skin and body care to brighten, hydrate, and restore your glow from head to toe. From powerful vitamin C serums to deeply hydrating retinol moisturizers, every product is packed with clean, effective ingredients that deliver real results. With over 1 million jars sold, this beauty secret is no longer a secret. For a limited time, our listeners get 25% off Go Pure with code PROGRESS at checkout. Just head to gopurebeauty.com/progress, use code PROGRESS, and you're all set. And after you buy, do us a favor. When they ask where you heard about Go Pure, tell them it was from our show. For years, I have been teaching women how to do habits differently. I have been so grateful to see the concepts that have changed the most for you with responses from women of our community, like you are changing the habit game for all of us. And this is so needed. And you should write a book on this. Well, guess what? I am. And I'm so eager for you to get your hands on it, hopefully sometime in 2026. And since I can't share the title yet, and also since I may end up self-publishing, I need a committee of gal pals, if you will, like you, who are ready to be my early test readers, to pre-order the book, and to act as grassroots publicists the moment each of those steps are made ready. Would you like to be on that book launch committee? Get on the free list by going to aboutprogress.com/book committee. Even if you just want to be the first in the know with any book news, that's where you sign up. Again, go to aboutprogress.com/book committee. It's in the show notes for you. I can't wait to share as much as I can with you along the way, and I am already so grateful for your support. I appreciate that you're telling us these things in more realistic ways that we can apply in real time without having to pull out a scale or a measuring cup. But also trying to be mindful how even snacks, if they're having that protein, fiber, and fat, if you're just trying to look for those 3 things, it sounds like you're headed in the right direction, which matters. I think where we get confused with protein is like they give us the grams, like you said, but also like for a whole day. And that's where it feels like you have to track everything. And for those of us who maybe that doesn't put us in a good headspace, or we just don't
Same.
have the energy, or time, I love what you're saying. Just look at your hand, try to use that as a measurement for a meal and a snack.
And you'll get
other
there.
things in there. And that's fine. That's good.
Exactly. You will get to that total amount. A lot of times when you hear these recommendations for how much to get in a day, either it's based on these old guidelines of the percent daily value that are dramatically underappreciating the amount of nutrition the body needs. By the way, that percent daily value was the minimum needed so that your body didn't deteriorate into rickets and scurvy.
Huh. Nobody ever says that. You think
it
that's
was not based
peak.
on, no.
It's the minimum.
The minimum. So either guidelines are based on that, right? Or guidelines are based on, in order for people to fall into what we want, we have to give them a number that's higher so that by aiming for that, they end up somewhere where we want them to be.
Okay.
Right? So it creates this range, right, between those two things where you're like, I don't understand. Right? Now, the dietary guidelines are supposed to be updated this year. And
good.
like the
hopefully
plate.
Good.
They make some
like,
progress.
Hopefully
I
good.
mean, they make progress.
Okay.
I still don't, right? But again, I think sometimes that lands us in this world of living in the weeds and feeling like we're failing versus just like, if this is how we're operating, we're going to get to what our body needs and we're going to figure it out.
It sounds like there's more self-trust too with that way of looking at food. Like we talked about that shift to actually trying to eat enough instead of trying to restrict all the time. And just that more realistic standard too. Hopefully you're on your way to feeling better and it becomes more and more natural too. So you're not having to sit there and count and try to do calculus in your head, which I haven't done since high school. So that would be not good. You've mentioned quality a few times, and I want to, use that as a bridge to talk about some more ideas because you've already given us some great ones of sources. But first, supplement versus like whole foods.
Yes.
I think we already know, like, you prefer a whole food.
Yeah.
Right.
I also do a lot in my practice with my clients with supplements. Right.
So it's not an either or thing. It can be
correct. Think about
both.
The root word of supplements is supplement, which means in addition. So I'm a big fan of supplements. With that said, the quality of those supplements matters dramatically. There are some, like there's a doctor I work with where we have an x-ray of the multivitamin that somebody took 3 days ago and then 2 days ago and then yesterday and then today, right? Still in their system. You can see in an x-ray because the pill didn't even break down. It's entirely whole.
That's interesting. Yeah.
So I'm a fan of supplementation, provided it is quality supplementation that your body can not only use, can not only break down, but then use.
Got it.
Right? So we call that bioavailability and then bioactivity.
Okay.
Okay? Long story short, it's going to require working with somebody who understands this side of the industry and these things to help you fill in those gaps, to help you figure out the optimal supplementation based on you and your lifestyle and your eating habits and your health goals, and make sure that what you're getting are quality choices in the supplementation also.
Well, because so much is unregulated too, right? So like you actually have
what's interesting is that it's in fact highly regulated. It is
highly regulated.
Yes, it is just not regulated the way we think of foods being regulated. So what is regulated is,
I'm thinking FDA, like in all those.
So there's an act of the FDA called DSHEA, DSHEA, and it's the Dietary Supplement and something act. I can't think of what the E is, whatever. It regulates the claims that we can make about what is in a supplement. And it regulates that what's in it, like what it says is in it, is actually what's in it. Now, just like with food, enforcing those regulations is very costly and not always done.
Got it. Okay.
So let's be very clear. There are a lot of things allowed to be in food that I wouldn't recommend either. Right? And so it's a little bit of learning to navigate that side of things too. Right? If somebody so a huge red flag on supplementation. If somebody is talking about a disease state, that is illegal. You cannot make claims about a supplement and a disease state because it is not a pharmaceutical.
Okay.
So, it's interesting and it gets hairy and sort of complicated. But so I just say to everybody, like, even when it comes to supplementation, like, use your spidey sense, right?
Yeah.
And it's probably why also with supplementation, maybe you've tried something and you didn't get the benefit that you were looking for. It might not actually be that that nutrient is not what you need. It might be that that supplement wasn't a quality source of that nutrient. Or your body wasn't able to break down because a lot of them are coated in these used binders and fillers and coatings that your body can't break down.
Okay.
So there's a lot, like everything. I wish it was so simple, and it's just
It's
our industry has made it real complicated.
Yeah, it sounds like it needs a whole episode there. I mean, you mentioned
I'm sorry.
You may need support with that.
Yes.
Is that like nutritionist? Is that a dietitian? Is that someone who can do those fancy tests with your blood? I don't even know what they're called.
Yeah. So functional lab testing, I have a little bit of a love-hate with some of that because I think it Western medicinized, functional care, because essentially then it's the same thing. You do the blood work and here's the protocol versus like, let's look at you.
Yeah.
And let's, but with that said, I mean, somebody who's working in this space, somebody who has access to a variety of brands or, who knows the suppliers, who knows who's formulating these things. So sometimes it might be like, an actual pharmacy where there's an herbalist there who can just help you understand. Or sometimes it's like a traditional Chinese medicine practitioner, or right, like the other side of that, like I do a lot in my practice with this. So, there are tools that we have and people available who can help answer some of those questions, or even look at a label of something that you're already taking.
And I think what, a big takeaway there is, let's go back to the roots of what we were doing this discussion
about.
Food first. Food first, but also like with that, if you're just heading in the right direction, then you're doing it right. And if you're ready to fix some bigger issues with symptoms that you're having, that's when you can go a step further and get support and get help and find the people that are right for you. But you've just given us some good things to watch out for, make sure this, these people are educated in this field and can individualize what they recommend.
Right. And you can't supplement your way out of poor nutrition. Right. So we must start with the protein, fiber, quality fat, where we started this conversation. A lot of the things you might be experiencing may remedy themselves when we start to get these nutrients in place from food. And then we can go, here's where I need to fill in the gaps.
Got it. Yeah. Okay, so let's go back to the foods then, and the quality foods.
Yeah.
This is going to be a little bit more rapid fire.
You got it.
You've given us some good recommendations already about Greek yogurt, eggs. So let's go from there. Those are the ones off the top of my head that I remember you mentioning.
We mentioned nutritional yeast.
Oh, yes, that's right.
Right? So that's a plant-based source. If you're looking for more of the plant-based source, hemp seeds are also great. Chia seeds are great.
And this is for protein and fiber, like putting them together.
Chia seeds give you protein and fiber, And the thing about like hemp seeds or chia seeds, like you can look at a label and it's going to tell you. right? And then you can go off of what we talked about.
Yeah.
You know, animal protein, I find to be very simple and easy, right? That's how we're using our hand to measure. I always say clean, lean protein, but eat what you like. Don't eat what you don't like. And I don't believe that red meat is the enemy. I think, you know, in all of these documentaries that have told us to all be plant-based, here's the thing. Everyone, 100% of people, health will improve if they eat more plants. Full stop. But there is zero evidence that 100% of people operate best at 100% plants. So when it comes to all of that research, you know what they're not looking at? The quality of the meat that these people are eating that are creating these issues in their blood, that are creating these health issues. So our food supply has sort of butchered, no pun intended, our animal protein. So grass-fed, organic, red meat, I would recommend over some of these faux meats for those who are attempting to be more plant-based, right? If we go back to what actually exists in nature, right?
Yeah. Okay.
Speaking of the internet, cottage cheese
Yeah.
got a lot of hype for a long time.
Sure.
I mean,
I like it. I dig it.
So
I dig it. Yeah.
I'm not the biggest fan.
Oh, yeah.
Something that is liquid and solid at the same time is just a little weird for me.
Sure.
Tip on that. Put it in a blender or, you know, some sort of like food processor or magic bullet or whatever, and just whip it till it gets smooth. And then it's the consistency of like a yogurt or a sour cream, or, you know, you can use it in those places. I have clients who use that to make dips. So one will add Italian dressing seasoning into the whipped cottage cheese. Thank you. Put that in the fridge in a Lazy Susan with a bunch of cut up vegetables around it, and like literally puts the entire Lazy Susan in the fridge so that you open the fridge, it's right there. It's like very easy to grab.
That's really smart.
Other protein things. So beans, lentils can be great. Personally, for me, my body doesn't deal so well with them. Like when I eat those, I experience that blood sugar spike and drop where I am tired after eating those things. So I do a lot better with the animal sources. So that's where I say guidelines, not gospel. Play around with it. And then reading the labels to understand 7 grams is like 1 ounce allows us to say, all right, well, if the beans and rice are my protein, how much do I have to get a proper serving here? Right? So that's a bunch of protein things. I'm trying to think if there are other easy to ones, but I'm always like, eat what you like, don't eat what you don't like.
Apples and veggies, you know, you talked about too, which is really great. We can reference
fresh
that
fruit,
too.
Fresh vegetables. You know, and the quality of our vegetables also is not the same as it once was, which is part of why a multivitamin makes, you know, a big impact, provided your body can break it down. And so we still want to choose those things, you know, and then add on, right? Supplement.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is so helpful. You know, going back to the standards though, because I think one thing you talked about having 4 to 6 ounces a meal, 2 to 3 ounces of protein for a snack. What's a good day target, like 4 ounces for protein?
We'll just add it up, right? If we have 3 meals a day and maybe a snack, right? So a meal is going to last you 4 to 5, maybe 5.5 hours, depending on how much you have at a time, right? A snack is going to last you 1 to 2, depending on how much you have at a time. So if we're up at 5, 6 a.m. and going to bed at 10 p.m., right, we might have 3 meals and a snack, right? Well, now we're looking at, now you're making me do math in my head, right?
But, so I thought around 20 ounces.
Right. 4, 8, 12, which now multiply that by 7 to get the grams. It's 140 grams. Like that's on target with everything you're hearing on the internet, which is why I say Go with the guidelines. It's all going to even out. You're going to get to that place if you're going to these guidelines.
Mm-hmm. And again, guidelines, not gospel too. So that's why I'm always like, okay, I may not be eating as much protein as I'm supposed to, but I'm still doing a lot better and heading the right direction.
And notice how you feel. Like if you're ending up with sugar cravings, we might want to up our protein. If you find that you are ravenous at night, we're probably under eating in the first half of the day.
Yeah.
Right? Like the things that we often feel like are a moral failing are really just the body communicating with us. So if we operate from being on the same team as our body and saying, I'm going to learn the language of the body. What is the body telling me? Right? My craving is telling me that I need more protein. My craving is telling me I didn't eat enough. Or my craving is telling me, because broccoli actually sounds good, that it's time to eat.
Yeah. I love that way of ending on that intuitive note, which is something I think we, as part of our generation, we've lost that communication skill.
For sure.
So
and I sort of like, even the phrase intuitive eating is a little bit of a pet peeve for me, because I think it has gone the way of every fad out there also, right? Like there is an evolution of going from, as you're saying, right, completely ignoring our bodies and following all the rules to only following our bodies and trying to figure that out, right? There's a process in that. And these guidelines to me are that step. Like these are the bridge, right? This allows us to start to understand all of those things. We're not just going to flip a switch, even though we expect that of ourselves.
Yeah. And I'll add intuitive eating saved my life. Yeah. And then I also had to learn more about these things too, to make sure that I was actually eating enough, because, it's still hard to listen to your body if it's been so detached for so long. And you need some guidelines too, to make sure that you're eating enough and living a life that feels good to you too. I so appreciate that you'd be willing to teach us such a wealth of information. And I do want to just add here the benefits you talked about of having, making sure protein and fiber are a better part of your life, as well as quality fat. You talked about better hair, clearer thinking, better energy, digestion, recovery, blood sugar stabilized, better sleep, so much more. Those are just like the tip of the iceberg. So this is why we're here. But I want to point them to your step before we ask the final question, to send them on a more like a very doable note. So where should they go if they want to learn more from you?
Absolutely. So my podcast is called Salad with a Side of Fries, if that gives you any inkling into, my MO. We call it Wellness Without the Weirdness. And
so great.
My website, thank you. My website is asaladwithasideoffries.com. All social media, I am at Jenn Trepeck, JENN. Please send a message. Like hearing from you is my absolute favorite thing. So it might take me a minute to respond, but please send a message.
Love that.
And more of all of this everywhere. And, there's information on my website to get a free download and how to work with me and all that good stuff.
Okay, we'll link to those things.
Yeah.
We always like to end with what is one small way listeners can take action on what they learned today.
Start with breakfast. Within an hour to 90 minutes of waking up.
Okay, thought of a whole other topic to talk to you about, but we
can do that. I'm happy to keep going.
I will stop myself now. But again, Jenn, thank you so much for being here, and we appreciate you and your time.
Monica, thank you. I appreciate it. So fun.
Oh, you were fabulous. That was really fun.
Thank you.
I hope this episode gave you the hug and kick in the pants you need to grow. It was clearly a wealth of information, which is why I love to share the progress pointers. These are the notes that I took so you don't have to. I shared this recently, but I'm doing progress pointers a little different. They will be shorter on the episode, but a little bit more expansive for the graphic form. And you can get that week's episode graphic by signing up for the newsletter at aboutprogress.com/newsletter. Number 1, protein and fiber are essential nutrients and play critical roles in maintaining energy levels, blood sugar, and supporting overall health. Number 2, blood sugar stability supports better health, and protein and fiber help with that. Number 3, Incorporating protein throughout the day is an important way to prevent energy dips, and you can do so by knowing the amount that is right for you. Number 4, fiber is critical for digestive health and helps prevent nutrient depletion from processed food. And number 5, remember, guidelines, not gospel. As with all expertise, take what you're taught about nutrition and adapt it to your wants, needs, and body. If you're pointed in the right direction, you are doing great. This podcast is listener supported. Members of the Supporters Club make my work with About Progress free and available to all. And they also get access to 3 levels of exclusive benefits from more time to more content with me. I'm about to release my 3rd episode in the GLP-1 episode series. And in this one, we get to hear from real women and their experiences with these drugs, whether they were good or bad or something in between. You can sign up by going to aboutprogress.com/support. You can always support the show for free. Make sure you have subscribed, are following, share the show with a friend, leave a review, and really important right now, follow us and watch us on YouTube. Really quick, the week this is airing is also my live version of the Best Summer Ever workshop. It's going to be very practical and hands-on, and I encourage you to sign up by going to aboutprogress.com/summer workshop, and you'll be able to find a replay there if you're listening to this later and still design a summer for the scrapbooks. Thank you so much for listening. Now go and do something with what you learned today. Well, I said I was going to talk to you for 20 minutes.
I know.
My like simple topic, you're like, you probably looked at that, you're like, not simple, but I so appreciate that you'd be willing to teach us such a wealth of information.